Tonight marks a full week since the riots at Calgary City Hall. You'll recall that about 1,000 anti-Israel protesters showed up there to wave flags and chant slogans, and that's perfectly legal in Canada. Unlike every single Arab country, we have freedom of speech and political freedom. We're simply a better country. We're freer, richer, happier, more peaceful, which is why so many people want to move from the Arab world to Canada, and really nobody wants to immigrate from Canada to the Arab world. Now, I'd like to see more Canadian flags at these rallies and fewer foreign flags, and I hate it when I see the flags of terrorist groups like Hamas or Hezbollah being flown in Canada. I find the shouts of death to the Jews and Hitler was right, I find that to be odious. I mean, can we be honest for a minute? Hamas and other Palestinian terrorist groups are really just the new Nazis. They're driven by a desire to kill Jews. But I don't believe in so-called hate speech laws. But I think the proper remedy for people who shout death to the Jews and who praise terrorists is social marginalization, to push them outside the boundaries of polite company. And frankly, if we can detect them before they immigrate here, to keep them out. So, for example, when one of Justin Trudeau's Calgary candidates named Darshan King showed up to speak at that protest riot last week, in a way, he was giving his stamp of approval to the protesters. He was saying that he found a group of people who denounce Israel and promote Hamas and say death to the Jews. He found them to be polite company. He wants their votes. That's unacceptable morally. But things went from merely being odious to being criminal very quickly. As we showed you last week, after standing around and chanting anti-Israel and anti-Jewish slogans for a bit, a group of young thugs took a run at a guy named Jeff Willerton, who was counter-protesting for Israel. They stole his flag, stomped on it, and when he tried to get it back, they punched him until he fell to the ground. And now that's where police should have stepped in, either to make arrests or more likely just to tell people to simmer down and back off and to warn them. But of course, there were no police there. There was no law and order. So instead of it being like life in Canada, the best, freest place in the world, the place of safety and peace and freedom and the rule of law, it was a little taste of Gaza, wasn't it? A taste of what Hamas's morality would be like if it were allowed here unfettered. It was frankly a throwback to the anti-Semitic brown shirts of Germany in the early 1930s, street thugs called the SA, who were half ideologues, half petty criminals who went around terrorizing political enemies of Hitler, especially the Jews. In other words, Canadian values last week were replaced by Hamas values. Other counter-protesters saw this lawlessness, and they retreated for safety across McLeod Trail, one of Calgary's busiest streets. But the pro-Hamas crowd was so exuberant and excited about knocking down Jeff Willerton, so they wanted a little bit more of that action, and so they decided to beat up a family of peaceful Calgarians, including a mother and a daughter. As you know, I interviewed that mom who was knocked to the ground and was hit so hard in her stomach that she had bruises there 4 days later.
And then I got hit in the stomach and I went flying.
Were you knocked down as well?
Yes. Yeah, I was knocked down.
Now, I'm going to ask you something that I normally wouldn't ask you, but I think it's important for journalistic reasons. I don't mean to embarrass you, but I want to see your bruises where you were hit, and I'm sorry, I just want to ask you to do that because I think it's important to show the world. Can you please show me your bruises? So you were hit in the stomach?
I was hit in the stomach.
Were you elbowed or were you punched?
I was punched. A fist came flying and hit me.
And Mrs. Hamilton's daughter, Samantha, was knocked to the ground also. That's her lying under a mob of anti-Israel rioters. They have no compunction about hitting women, about knocking women to the ground. These folks support extreme Sharia law where beating women is okay. And infidel women are routinely called whores for not covering themselves up in a burqa. Now, this was all terrifying, which is not surprising given that the rally was in support of a terrifying terrorist group called Hamas. So it's not a surprise that the tactics of fear and violence and lawlessness are being replicated in Canada at their rallies. What is a surprise is that the police simply didn't do anything because they weren't even there. 800 or more angry, chanting, swearing protesters and no cops, just none. This wasn't in some faraway suburb. This was right downtown, right on the steps of City Hall, right outside the mayor's office. It was a block away from a police station, a few blocks from the court. This place is normally full of police, just coming and going. But they had all somehow been removed for the protest. That mob was there for nearly an hour, and the police just stayed away while the violence happened. Now, the rioters were a disgrace, but what the police did was worse. They approved of the disgrace by staying away. Now, a full day after the riots, the police thought they'd better explain themselves, so they posted an unsigned statement to their Facebook page saying, quote, "The Calgary Police Service was prepared and responded immediately." But that's just not true, is it? I mean, did you see any police in those videos we've shown you? There were no police there. They had literally cleared the zone. I'm sorry, but I'm not so naive as to think it's a coincidence or an accident That unsigned Facebook statement by the police is just a stupid attempt to cover things up. Now, after that first lie didn't hold, I mean, there were just too many eyewitnesses to the police absence, the cops took a different line. Get this. This is just great. This is a statement they put up by email. There was a communication drop, and we didn't have anybody on site, but a police presence was in the area. Huh! What's a communication drop? And how does it happen again and again and again for 50 minutes? And what does it mean to have a police presence in the area? As in, they were a few blocks away at the police station, but they didn't bother to get up and stroll over even very slowly to help the woman who was knocked down. I mean, so someone forgot to email the police that there would be a rally that day. I don't believe that. The police were contacted by both anti-Israel and pro-Israel sides by phone, email, and even by Twitter. I mean, even the mayor, Naheed Nenshi, personally knew about it. He mentioned it in advance on Twitter. And even if you believe that an entire modern police force had a simultaneous collective moment of amnesia and forgot about things, even if you're that gullible, how do you explain them not showing up, not even sending a single cop to handle traffic for a 50-minute protest of nearly 1,000 people outside City Hall that blocked McLeod Trail? I'm sorry, I'm not that stupid. This wasn't an accident or whoopsie. This was a deliberate police strategy, and we know that because the deliberate police strategy continues on right now as I speak. I say again, it has been a week. And in that week, we've seen plenty of video and photo images of the riot and the rioters. I mean, just take a look at this. In addition to the video, these are all photos from a website called Blograph. Look at these photos and videos of the rioters, mid-punch and mid-kick. This is just a private guy's website, and he's posting very clear pictures of the criminals. That's just a citizen's blog that's being posted. But no charges laid. Worse than that, the police aren't even calling for the public to identify these rioters. They're just not. Since the riot, the police has published a photo of this sweet, sweet car that was stolen and asked Calgary's help to find that. And then they did that a second time. They really, really want the public's help to find that stolen car. Hey, good idea. But those rioters who beat a mom and her daughter, oh, not so much. I mean, one's a cool car. The other's an embarrassing reminder of when the police stood back and let a little pogrom happen right downtown. As one cop told a Jew who was nearly strangled by an Israeli flag he brought, hey, what do you expect showing up at a pro-Palestinian rally? Well, the answer is for law enforcement to enforce the law, sir. Well, you know me, I don't stand idly by. After the break, I'll tell you what we can do to counter these violent protesters, and we'll see if the police will be by our side or not. So why didn't the Calgary police do anything in last week's violent pro-Palestinian riot? Well, a fish rots from the head down, and Calgary's police are surely doing nothing that Calgary's mayor, Naheed Nenshi, hasn't himself done. Oh, there's nothing too trivial for Nenshi to talk about. The man should have his own TV talk show. He never shuts up about anything big or small. Nenshi specializes in tweeting pictures of lost cats and dogs for the public to help find. Pictures of rioters, though? Don't be ridiculous. He hasn't even said a word about it. What a disgrace. Now, a funny thing happened. The organizer of the anti-Israel protest that turned into a riot, her name is Seema Jamal. And that's her there with Justin Trudeau, naturally. I mean, he's courting the anti-Semitic vote like his dad did. Well, Seema Jamal told reporters this week that she was going to apologize to the victims of the riot. I asked the victims, and none of them had received that apology. Of course they hadn't. I mean, it doesn't make sense. How can you apologize for roughing up Jews and pro-Israel Gentiles in Calgary at the same time you're supporting Hamas that is all about violence against Jews and pro-Israel Gentiles and uses rockets? I mean, obviously it was a lie, but more to the point, if the protest organizer really was sorry about the crimes committed by her rally's attendees, why didn't she just turn in the rioters to the police? I mean, she knows who they are. Why is she keeping their identity a secret? Well, because she's thrilled by the violence. Here's what Seema Jamal wrote on Facebook after the riots. Bah! After today, they would be foolish to show up again in another protest in Calgary as long as they live. So she's laughing about the riots. She said it achieved its goal, scaring away pro-Israel protesters anywhere in Calgary for the rest of their lives. She and her riot friends are conquering the streets of Calgary through violence. I mean, of course she is. She's a Hamas supporter. She supports terrorism and a liberal supporter. So what do you think? As you know, on Tuesday, Sun viewers raised more than $5,000 to hire a lawyer on behalf of the riot victims to get the police to press charges. We did this on our website, stoptheriots.ca. Now, I hope it'll work. And we've got a great lawyer, but I'm still skeptical. I think the cops don't want to admit that they made a political decision to give the streets of Calgary to the thugs, like Jamal and her friends. I think Nenshi doesn't dare speak out about this because he knows he won the vast majority of those Muslim votes in the city, and he doesn't want to jeopardize that. He himself is a liberal Muslim, but he depends on those radical votes. But look, this is just not right. Calgary streets should not be under the rule of Hamas or its supporters. Violence should not go unpunished in Canada, especially political violence. The police and city council should not be silent in the face of a crime spree. This is Canada, not Gaza. So what should we do? Well, we already hired a lawyer for the victims. You helped pay for that through your donations. Thank you. We have shone a light of scrutiny on what happened. That's important. We've delivered a petition of more than 4,000 names of outraged Canadians who signed up at stoptheriots.ca. We delivered that petition to the mayor's office, city council, and the chief of police, demanding that they press charges and denounce these crimes. But still, nothing has happened. It's been almost a week. So I say we do something physical, something real. I say we get off the couch and go right to the steps of Calgary City Hall ourselves and prove that this is Canada, not Gaza, and that Calgarians of every and any stripe can feel free and safe to walk the streets of Calgary without pro-Hamas thugs beating us up. That we can wave any damn flag we like, and we love the Canadian flag, and you know what? We like the flag of our Israeli allies too. And that we can do this, and we bloody well expect the police to protect us, not to run and hide. So I am convening a rally myself, right where the pro-Hamas thugs were last week. That is not their turf. That is not a Jew-free zone. That is not a Sharia law zone. I don't live in Gaza. I live in Canada. And I have free speech and freedom of religion. And my police force had damn well better arrest any thugs who try to stop me. I am inviting all of my friends to join me in Calgary. We are going to have a big rally called CalgaryForIsrael.ca. And that's the website with all the details on it too. CalgaryForIsrael.ca. Next Thursday, July 31st, from 6 till 8 p.m., right on the steps of Calgary City Hall. We will take back that ground that those thugs think they could steal from us. This is not a Jewish rally, though Jews are welcome. This is a Canadian rally. It's for everyone in Calgary who supports democracy and freedom and despises Hamas and other terrorists. It's for people on the side of peace, not terrorism. It's for people who are sick of the thugs who pretend to be just anti-Zionist or whatever they call themselves, but who are really nothing more than this century's Nazis. But it's more than that. This isn't really about Israel or Gaza at all. It's about what kind of city we want Calgary to be, what kind of country we want Canada to be. We want it to be a place where Gaza-style violence is not acceptable, not by the police, not by the mayor. We want to be a place where Jews and Gentiles and Muslims can all walk down the street without fear of being punched to the ground. Far more terrifying to me than some street thugs is a political culture at City Hall and the Police Commission that accepts street thugs. I'm going to MC this rally next Thursday. We're going to have some great music and a few good speeches. One speech from a Jew, one speech from a Christian, and one speech from a Muslim. One of my favorite guys, Tarek Fata, will be there. He loves Palestinians and he weeps for their sorry state. But he knows that loving Palestinians is not the same as hating Jews. He knows that helping Palestinians does not mean launching terrorist attacks against Israel. And my friend Ryan Belrose, a Métis man from Calgary, a Zionist who's been on our show, he'll also be speaking as well. This is going to be a pro-Canada rally for every Calgarian who loves peace and freedom, every Jew, Christian, Muslim, and anyone else in Calgary who stands with Israel's right to self-defense and who knows that Hamas and its Nazi culture of violence are unacceptable to civilized men. I'll see you next Thursday, 6 p.m., July 31st at City Hall in Calgary. To learn more, please visit CalgaryForIsrael.ca. If the police won't take back our streets from these thugs, we will.